Welcome back to the live reading of Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. This is the deluxe edition, and we are picking up on chapter number... Here we go. On chapter number 11, How to Unlock Your Real Personality. We made it all the way to page 205 over here. The straight and narrow path between inhibition and disinhibition. And if you guys are new here, make sure you guys check out the link in the bio to learn more about Intentions of a Mastermind. And don't forget to subscribe and leave any questions you have in the comments. So let's jump right into today's reading. Someone has said that the inhibited, worrywart, anxiously concerned personality stutters all over. Balance and harmony are what is needed. When the temperature has gone too high, the doctor attempts to lower it. When it has sunk too low, he attempts to raise it. When a person cannot sleep enough, a prescription is given to make the patient sleep more. When a person sleeps too much, a stimulant is prescribed to keep him awake, etc. It's not a question of which is best, a hot or cold temperature, or sleepfulness or wakefulness. The cure lies in taking a long step in the opposite direction. Here, the principle of cybernetics enters into the picture again. Our goal is an adequate, self-fulfilling, creative personality. The path to the goal is a course between too much inhibition and too little. When there is too much, we correct course by ignoring inhibition and practicing more disinhibition. How to tell whether you need disinhibition. Here are the feedback signals, which can tell you whether you are off course because of too much or too little inhibition. If you continually get yourself into trouble because of overconfidence, you have habitually rushed in where angels fear to tread. If you have habitually find yourself in hot water because of impulsive, ill-considered actions, if projects backfire on you because you always practice acting first and asking questions later, if you could never admit you're wrong, if you are a loud talker and a blabbermouth, you probably have too little inhibition. You need to think more of consequences before acting. You need to stop acting like a bull in a china shop and plan your activities more carefully. However, the great majority of people do not fall in the above category. If you are shy around strangers, if you dread new and strange situations, if you feel inadequate, worry a lot, are anxious, overly concerned, if you are nervous and feel self-conscious, if you have any nervous symptoms such as facial tics, blinking your eyes unnecessarily, tremor, difficulty in going to sleep, if you feel ill at ease in social situations, if you hold yourself back and continually take a back seat, then these are all symptoms showing that you have too much inhibition. You are too careful in everything. You plan too much. You need to practice St. Paul's advice to the Ephesians. Be careful in nothing. Practice exercises number 1. Don't wander in advance what you are going to say. Just open your mouth and say it. This is Psycho-Cybernetics. Improvise as you go along. Jesus advises us to give no thoughts as to what we would say if delivered up to councils, but that the Spirit would advise us what to say at the time. Number 2, don't plan. Take no thought for tomorrow. Don't think before you act. Act and correct your actions as you go along. This advice may seem radical, yet it is actually the way all servo mechanisms must work. A torpedo does not think out all its errors in advance and attempt to correct them in advance. It must act first, start moving toward the goal, then correct any errors which may occur. We cannot think first and act afterwards, said A.N. Whitehead. From the moment of birth, we are immersed in action and can only fitfully guide it by taking thought. Number 3, stop criticizing yourself. The inhibited person indulges in self-critical analysis continually. After each action, however simple, he says to himself, I wonder if I should have done that. After he has gotten up courage enough to say something, he immediately says to himself, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe the other person will take it the wrong way. Stop all this tearing yourself apart. Useful and beneficial feedback works subconsciously, spontaneously, and automatically. Conscious self-criticism, self-analysis, and introspection is good and useful, if undertaken perhaps once a year. But as a continual, moment by moment, day by day, sort of second-guessing yourself or playing Monday morning quarterback to your past actions, it is defeating. Watch for this self-criticism. Pull yourself up short and stop it. Number 4. Make a habit of speaking louder than usual. Inhibited people are notoriously soft-spoken. Raise the volume of your voice. You don't have to shout at people and use an angry tone. Just consciously practice speaking louder than usual. Loud talk in itself is a powerful disinhibitor. Recent experiments have shown that you can exert up to 15% more strength and lift more weight if you will shout, grunt, or groan lightly as you make the lift. The explanation of this is that loud shouting disinhibits and allows you to exert all your strength, including that which has been blocked off and tied up by inhibition. Number 5, let people know when you like them. The inhibited personality is as afraid of expressing good feelings as bad ones. If he expresses love, he is afraid it will be judged sentimentally. If he expresses friendship, he is afraid he will be considered fawning or apple polishing. If he compliments someone, he is afraid the other will think him superficial or suspect an ulterior motive. Totally ignore all these negative feedback signals. Compliment at least 3 people every day. If you like what someone is doing or wearing or saying, let them know it. Be direct. I like that, Joe. Mary, that is a very pretty hat. Jim, that proves to me you are a suave person. If you are married, just say to your wife, I love you, at least twice a day. And that is the end of chapter 11, just like that. So I'm going to pick up on chapter 12, but first I wanted to talk a little bit about what we just read. So someone asked if this is the Bible. This is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. This is an excellent book for, recreating your personality and aligning closer to your favorite self, which is something that I feel is very important that everyone should do. Because as the book has mentioned many, many times, we are all designed to be here to serve the world. And the only way you could serve in your fullest capacity is when you are living your best possible life, right? And a lot of the times, our mind makes us feel inadequate. It makes us feel insufficient. It makes us feel like we're not enough. It makes us feel and believe that we are not capable of living a life that is fulfilling. But when we change the way we think and what we believe about ourselves, and we live a life that is not aligned with the norm, but aligned with who we truly are, that is when you can make a real difference in the world. And in this last chapter on how to unlock your real personality, a lot of the times as children, we are told to tone it down. We are told not to talk unless spoken to. We are told many, many things that close up our mind and don't allow us to be free in our living. So the author makes many suggestions on how to transform that way of thinking and how to be disinhibited, right? That's the term he uses, meaning, do not let the little voice in your mind that's telling you, oh, that's wrong, or always second guessing, or always prejudging ourselves, to overtake our lives. We should be willing to try new things. We should be willing to have conversations that are open and honest, with other people. And this is how we can truly live a life that is fulfilling. That's genuinely what the author is trying to portray here. So we're gonna pick up on chapter 12, do-it-yourself tranquilizers, which bring peace of mind. So it says, tranquilizer drugs, which have become so popular during the past few years, bring peace of mind, calmness, and reduce or eliminate nervous symptoms by an umbrella action. Just as an umbrella protects us from the rain, the various tranquilizers erect a psychic screen between us and disturbing stimuli. No one fully understands just how the tranquilizers manage to erect this umbrella, but we do understand why this brings tranquility. Tranquilizers work because they greatly reduce or eliminate our own response to disturbing stimuli. Tranquilizers do not change the environment. The disturbing stimuli are still there. We are able to recognize them intellectually, but we do not respond to them emotionally. Remember, in the chapter on happiness, we said that our own feelings do not depend upon externals, but upon our own attitudes, reactions, and responses. Tranquilizers offer convincing evidence of this fact. In substance, they reduce or tone down our over-response to negative feedback. Over-response is a bad habit which can be cured. Let us suppose that you are reading this. You are sitting quietly in your den. Suddenly, the telephone rings. From habit and experience, this is a signal or a stimulus which you have learned to obey. Without taking thought, without making a conscious decision about the matter, you respond to it. You jump up from your comfortable seat and hurry to the telephone. The outside stimulus has had the effect of moving you. It has changed your mental set and your position or self-determined course of action. You were all set to spend an hour sitting quietly and relaxed, reading. You were inwardly organized for this. Now all this is suddenly changed by your response to the external stimuli in the environment. The point I wish to make is this. You do not have to answer the telephone. You do not have to obey. You can, if you choose, totally ignore the telephone bell. You can, if you choose, continue sitting quietly and relaxed, maintaining your own original state of organization by refusing to respond to the signal. Get this mental picture clearly in your mind, for it can be quite helpful in overcoming the power of external stimuli to disturb you. See yourself sitting quietly, letting the phone ring, ignoring its signal, unmoved by its command. Although you are aware of it, you no longer mind or obey it. As also, get clearly in your mind the fact that the outside signal in itself has no power over you, no power to move you. In the past, you have obeyed it, responded to it, purely out of habit. You can, if you wish, form a new habit of not responding. Also notice that your failure to respond does not consist in doing something or making an effort or resisting or fighting, but in doing nothing. In relaxation from doing. You merely relax. Ignore the signal and let its summons go by unheeded. How to condition yourself for equanimity. In much the same way that you automatically obey or respond to the ring of the telephone. We all become conditioned to respond in a certain way to various stimuli in our environment. The word conditioning in psychological circles grew out of Pavlov's well-known experiments where he conditioned a dog to salivate at the sound of a bell by ringing it just before presenting food to the dog. This procedure was repeated many times. First, the sound of the bell. A few seconds later, the appearance of food. The dog learned to respond to the sound of the bell by salivating in anticipation of the food. Originally, the response made sense. The bell signified that food was forthcoming, and the dog got ready by salivating. However, after the process was repeated a number of times, the dog would continue to salivate whenever the bell was rung, whether or not food was immediately forthcoming. The dog had now become conditioned to salivate at the mere sound of a bell. His response made no sense and served no good purpose, but he continued to respond in the same way out of habit. There are a great many bells or disturbing stimuli in our various environmental situations which we have become conditioned to, and which we continue to respond to out of habit, whether or not the response makes any sense. Many people learn to fear strangers, for example, because of parental admonitions to have nothing to do with strange people. Do not accept any candy from a stranger. Do not get in a car with a stranger, etc. The response of avoiding strangers serves a good purpose in small children, but many people continue to feel ill and at ease and uncomfortable in the presence of any stranger, even when they know that he comes as a friend instead of a foe. Strangers become bells, and the learned response becomes fear, avoidance, or the desire to run away. Still, another person may respond to the crowds, closed spaces, open spaces, persons and authorities, such as the boss, by feelings of fear and anxiety. In each case, the crowd, the closed space, the open space, the boss, etc., acts as bells which say danger is present, run away, feel afraid, and out of habit, we continue to respond in the accustomed way. We obey the bell. How to extinguish conditioned responses. We can, however, extinguish the conditioned response if we make a practice of relaxing instead of responding. We can, if we wish, just as in the case of the telephone, learn to ignore the bell and continue to sit quietly and let it ring. A key thought that we can carry with us is to use whenever we are confronted by any disturbing stimulus is to say to ourselves, the telephone is ringing, but I do not have to answer it. I can just let it ring. This thought will key in your mental picture of yourself sitting quietly, relaxed, unresponding, doing nothing, letting the telephone ring unheeded, and will act as a trigger or a clue to call up the same attitude that you had when letting the phone ring. If you cannot ignore the response, delay it. In the process of extinguishing a conditioning, a person may find it difficult, especially at first, to totally ignore the bell, especially if it's rung unexpectedly. In such instances, you can accomplish the same final result, extinction of the conditioning, by delaying your response. A woman who we will call Mary S. became anxious and ill at ease when in the presence of crowds. She was able, by practicing in the foregoing technique, to immunize or tranquilize herself against the disturbing stimuli on most occasions. However, occasionally the desire to run away, to flee, became almost overpowering. Remember Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind? I asked her. Her philosophy was, I won't worry about that now. I'll worry about it tomorrow. She was able to maintain her inner equilibrium and effectively cope with her environment in spite of war, fire, pestilence, and unrequited love by delaying the response. Delaying the response breaks up and interferes with the automatic workings of conditioning. Counting to 10 when you are tempted to become angry is based upon the same principle. It is a very good advice. If you count slowly and in fact actually delay the response rather than merely holding in your anger, shouting, or desk pounding, the response in anger consists of more than shouting or desk beating. The tension in your muscles is a response. You cannot feel the emotion of anger or fear if your muscles remain perfectly relaxed. Therefore, if you can delay feeling angry for 10 seconds, delay responding at all, you can extinguish the automatic reflex. Mary S. did extinguish her conditioned fear of crowds by delaying her response. When she felt she simply had to run away, she would say to herself, "Very well, but not this very minute. I will delay leaving the room for 2 minutes. I can refuse to obey for only 2 minutes." Relaxation erects a psychic screen or tranquilizer. It is well to get clearly in your mind the fact that our disturbed feelings are anger, hostility, fear, anxiety, insecurity are caused by our own responses, not by externals. Response means tension. Lack of response means relaxation. It has been proved in scientific laboratory experiments that you absolutely cannot feel angry, fearful, anxious, insecure, unsafe as long as your muscles remain perfectly relaxed. All these things are, in essence, our own feelings. Tension in muscles is a preparation for action, or a getting ready to respond. Relaxation of the muscles brings about mental relaxation, or a peaceful, relaxed attitude. Thus, relaxation is nature's own tranquilizer, which erects a psychic screen or umbrella between you and the disturbing stimulus. Psychic relaxation is a powerful disinhibitor for the same reason. In the last chapter, we learned that inhibition results from excessive negative feedback, or rather, our over response to negative feedback. Or relaxation means no response. Therefore, in your daily practice of relaxation, you are learning disinhibition as well as providing yourself with nature's own do-it-yourself tranquilizer, which you can take with you into your daily activities. Protect yourself from disturbing stimuli by maintaining the relaxed attitude. All right. I'm going to pause here for today and invite on our Intentions of a Mastermind member. I hope you guys enjoyed today's reading and feeling today joy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you. Hold on, I'm trying to get my sound together. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Oh, good. Okay.
I wanted to know, how did you like this reading today? Because we're always talking about conditioning and reprogramming, and I'm so interested to find out what came up for you during today's reading.
Oh, yes. Conditioning is one of my favorite things to talk about. Um, a couple things came up, but I was about to put it in the comments, and I think I still will. But there's a quote by Viktor E. Frankl, and the quote is, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." And I'll put it in the comments too, just so we can have it. But I love that quote because it reminds me that, yes, there is time, there is space in between when I feel something and when I respond to it, if I need to respond at all. Okay. And conditioning is so sneaky because it is always there. Um, I, Part of the conditioning I experienced was to not be soft, right? When we talked about this in the chapter about forgiveness, and that you always have to let somebody know what it is. You need to always let somebody know who you are and what they can and cannot get away with when it comes to you. And in the Untethered Soul, the author talks about that same concept, how like if someone at work takes your pencil, every time you reach for a different pencil, you feel that tension well up inside of you. Like, I need to let that person have it because they need to know that they can't take my pencil. Well, first it's going to be my pencil, then it's going to be my car, then it's going to be my spouse, you know? And it's like, or you can stay in that present moment and be like, but today is just a pencil and I do not need to do anything or cause any other fuss because the cost of my freedom right now is just a pencil, you know? So I just think about that with conditioning because a similar experience happened to me the other day. And it was like, the conditioned response was, you better say something. And it's like, the person didn't even say anything that was offensive. But on the outside looking in, it could have been taken that way, but I wasn't offended. So I don't need to pretend to be offended because other people might think that it's offensive. And if I don't say anything, then I look like a punk, right? It wasn't worth it to me to say anything. And then if I say something, now I'm in a very tense situation with someone that doesn't need to be that way.
That is really powerful what you're sharing.
You know what I'm saying? So, but we don't think about how those responses come from our conditioning, but that's exactly what that is. It's not part of my personality. That's how I was conditioned to respond.
And I think that's what the author was trying to talk about in the previous chapter about, inhibition versus disinhibition, of how we're conditioned to be smaller. We're conditioned to, to protect ourselves, right? Even the part where he talks about the stranger, maybe that works for small children, but as we develop into adults, we carry that conditioning with us. And now, how are we supposed to create relationships or make money or create a fulfilling life if we're so busy avoiding strangers? And I think also that understanding of what, there's a specific way that he framed this. He said the disturbing responses, right, or the disturbing stimuli, which is like the anger, the upset feelings, the hurt, the fear, even that feeling you felt with that feeling of disrespect, even though you didn't feel disrespected, that is a conditioned response, maybe based off of what we've seen when we were younger, what was normalized in our communities, in our households. And in order to be present enough to pause and take that time to just delay your original reaction and response, really does give you the opportunity to choose. Is my response going to align with who I want to be, or is it going to keep me where I am currently? And if you don't like where you are currently, or you want to improve where you are currently, then you really do have to consciously take that moment to pause and think about, what would I do if I was living, the perfect life, and insert blank. This operating from that higher self, from that different perspective. And the way that I always think about it, if I was a millionaire, how would I live? How would I respond? I'm pretty sure, someone saying something off to me wouldn't trigger me immediately because I don't got time for that. I'm busy focused on my millions,
Exactly.
or something like that.
Yep, exactly.
So
it really boiled down to, in that moment when I was pausing and just, I don't even know if all these things were going through my mind consciously, but now that I'm reprocessing the situation with you all here, I was, thinking about how, what I'm considering right now is other people's consciousness and how other people might be interpreting the situation when most people probably didn't even notice. So the more I hold on to this energy, the more it's impacting me and no one else. And it doesn't even matter because it's not going to change my actions moving forward. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. Right? So that's just, it really, when we start to do this kind of work and start to really take it seriously, source, universe, God, however it is you do or do not resonate with that higher power, is going to start to put that stuff in your face for you to practice it in real time. Are you paying attention is the question, or are you just being entertained by reading this, or are you just allowing the words to passively go into your system without, just to be able to say, I read a book today? Are you in the present moment practicing what it is that you're allowing to go into your system? Because better believe you are practicing something that you allow into that system. Or are you present enough to realize it?
Yeah, and in saying that, I definitely encourage everyone to, if you have the book, great. The author does include these little areas here. It says points to remember, and you fill it in after every chapter. So the author said it in the beginning too, the only way to experience these things for yourself is to actually have personal experiences. That's the only thing that you can go based off of. You are the one that creates your life. You are the one that must creatively respond to the information that's being given. So if you want to re-listen to this video as many times as you want, it's available to you guys for free on YouTube, on Facebook, and take notes while you're at it, because writing things down really does change the way it's integrated. It's not just something you hear, it's not just something you read, but now it becomes a part of you. And I don't mean typing it in your phone or on your computer, actually taking out a piece of paper, a pencil, a pen, and putting that actual physical act of writing, because experience is active. So, I hope that you guys are able to utilize this in your lives to improve the way you're living, the way you're experiencing life. And I'm going to put up this beautiful quote here. It says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor E. Frankl. Thank you so much for sharing that, Joy. And I hope you guys all have an amazing day, and we'll see you guys for the rest of the chapter. Talk to you soon.